What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Throwing Tantrums. This is the crew. If you want to know more about them and give them a follow, it's in the description. Today we're talking about the Olympics being in the Paris 2024 Olympics. Did I just repeat myself?
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry. Yeah. B-boying, breaking in the Paris Olympics. Sorry. Thoughts on that? Because I feel like there was the meme that was going out for a while, like the OGs from the back in the days. Like, now's our chance to compete. Like,
throw your walkers away.
but there's also I'm excited for it because the breaking in the 80s, 90s, 2000s to now has evolved to, I think, a much more organized like sport, as what some would consider it, because jams back in the day were different. So, but also I get a little bit concerned of like, will it dilute the product of like, oh, look at these break dancers, and no, they're just doing gymnastics on all this shit. Those are the things, the misconceptions. Obviously, I have zero control over, but yeah, but the thing that excites me about it is like they get to see, at least I hope to see, how this art form has evolved. That it's not just head spins. There's an actual technique. Like there's footwork, there's freezes, and a lot of things that people don't know about don't know about it, because half the time in commercial stuff, it's flashy moves, because flash is what people want on the commercials, or even on stages, or when touring. So, your thoughts, B-boys, and also like for the non-breakers here, your thoughts on is dancing considered a sport? Should it be considered a sport, or is it just art? Because I hear the other thing of like, when with basketball, there's clear winners and losers. You score a point over the other people.
Yeah,
then
like there's no
3-pointer.
competitions. Like, we don't compete. Ever heard of heck? You got vibe. They compete. You got wad. So you think you can dance? Is another competition?
So that's the thing
That's
where
a TV show, though.
some people get like go into the weeds of like, it's all of it is subjective, like measures. Like you put ball in basket, 1 point. 2 points. Sorry. Damn. I'm sorry.
Depending. You get one baguette to the face, you lose.
Sorry. But if like, for example, with dancing in general, so if, for example, breaking, someone does head spins just to make it very easy to illustrate, and someone does some fancy footwork. I can't really illustrate that, but like, how do you even judge that? Or for crews, like someone just does all popping versus someone does all locking. So like that's harder to judge because it's more subjective and very different techniques.
Right.
Like whereas everyone in, I'd say, a quote unquote regular sport kind of has some sort of level playing field. Again, I've never played like football, basketball, or any of that stuff, but that's just
Emeroy brings up a very good point, because dance is subjective. I think everyone here will that's just the truth. There's no way to measure it like you can in basketball. This is actually the very same comparison that a friend of mine had. With basketball, you can clearly see, look, this team put up 70 points. They beat you. You guys only got 65. It's cut and dry, black and white. There's no argument to be made. But with something like dance, whether it's breaking or an all-style battle, it is 100% subjective. On one day, this b-boy won. On another day, that could go to the other side depending on where the battle's happening, because every region kind of has their own taste. And some things are more appealing to a certain judge. That, I think, you bring up a good point, is going to be very hard to measure in something like the Olympics, where when you have things like, well, this was a swim race, and he won. Well, no, actually, I think I should win, even though I got second, because no, you can't make that argument. Right. The one thing that I would bring up is, well, we do have floor routines for gymnastics, and that is voted by a panel. So luckily there is going to be maybe a little wiggle room for them to make it something that we can still vote on. Breaking as an art form. So now I'm going to talk about the other topic, because we see the flashiness, and this is also hand in hand. I think one of the reasons why it translates well to the Olympics is because you have those flashy moves. You have the head spins. You have the flares. You have the big flips and the tricks, and that's going to get the mainstream media, oh, dang, did you just see what that person did? He just spun on his head 12 times, and then he flung himself in the air, and now he's doing windmills, and then he hits this really, really crazy freeze. That looks appealing to someone who maybe doesn't understand rhythm or doesn't understand dance.
Yeah.
We as dancers still know that, oh, well, there's an 8 count to hit. Well, there's certain beats you want to emphasize and enunciate certain parts of the music. And so, as a b-boy, I really have grown to understand that this is, apart from everything else, or on top of everything else, is in fact still a dance. If you guys, and anyone watching, if you want a really, really good example of this, go on YouTube, check out Red Bull BC1. It's a b-boy, Shige Kicks from Japan. He battles an old school b-boy, Flea Rock. And that really, really emphasizes the difference between something that's like really combo and power heavy, and watch this individual just hit some of the craziest movements you've ever seen.
Burns,
just come in and out. Oh, actually, I'm talking about Shige. Watch this b-boy just go a mile a minute, doing the craziest spins you've ever seen into a crazy, crazy freeze, into the super high difficult combo. But then watch this other dancer listen to the music and really rock the beat and ride it, and then he's throwing burns at his opponent, and he's mocking him, and he's humiliating him out there, because that's part of breaking. It's part of saying, yo, I own this floor, and you do not belong here, and I'm gonna do everything I can to embarrass you because I'm putting on a show. So there's a lot of things that people in the community and have grown up with breaking as a culture really understand and really see, and maybe the mainstream audience that watches the Olympics, they might not recognize that. And I think that's where a lot of the kind of gray area is, because you have some of these OGs that think, yo, yeah, is this going to dilute the culture? Is it not? But we also understand that as a platform, the Olympics is freaking outstanding. You're talking about a dance that really got started in like the 70s, and now 50 years later, all of a sudden it's made it to the biggest. I know, we're old. I know, it's crazy. It's now hit like the crazy, crazy main stage. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting moment for breaking as an art form and as a dance. I'll take the W. I'll take the win. But it's an interesting topic.
I think just to bounce off that, like just to give some definitions for people who aren't aware of breaking terminology. Burns are kind of like insults. Like if this is an insult, chop someone's head off. Like they're not actually doing it, but it's like just verbal insults, like not verbal, like dance insults. Yeah, pantomiming kind of. Footwork, dancing on the floor. And you can clearly see where the feet are moving. Power moves, big flashy stuff. Head spins, flares. Top rocks are just dancing on their 2 feet up on top. Freezes when they are just holding a freeze. As simple as possible. So, just to give clear definitions for those of you who are not aware of this art form or this style.
And the jargon.
Because you might just say burns, and like, what's a burn?
You set someone on fire?
And then to add to that, like the whole Flea Rock, like he was straight up style, all character. And then versus flashy moves. And then to the mainstream eye, like say we even watch to the example of say even America's Best Dance Crew or World of Dance. Some of the crews that get a lot of attention commercially are the ones with the flashier moves or the flashier tricks. Because I know in some of the World of Dance stuff that we watched, they had crazy flashy moves, and then there's another crew.
Flip.
There's another crew that we watched, like I'd say, like that I also liked. Very like in terms of the art form, technically precise, like choreography, musicality, but not that doesn't. But that's something the community are like who is in it would understand, and especially with the small nuances with musicality or small intricate movements versus again the flash. So that's where the concern is. Like the layman would be like, no, this person with the thing, flips. Like, they win.
He did a flute.
It's because it's harder, right?
Right.
Versus I don't know.
But it's not harder.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily harder to do.
It looks harder.
It's a different skill.
Harder.
It's a different skill.
Like the example I'm thinking of like, you know, technique over power or vice versa is again with like ABDC, Jabberwockies and Cobble Modern when they did that back in timepiece. The thing that stuck out to me the most was like when Kid Raiden does like the head spin for like hours and hours, and then you know Cobble Modern is like high technical and like you know they have really good like lines and like their movement is like more listening to the music versus like you know not to discredit like Jabberwocky and stuff like that, but like you know the power moves and stuff like that, especially towards the end, because like you know that's like what stuck out to mainstream crowd. They see a head spin or a flare or like you know something that's like you know oh I can't do that, that looks amazing, and then Cobble Modern where it's like they do you know moves that pretty much anyone can do if they like really put their effort into it. They're just like basic. So it's like you know it feels weird to like see how they will judge the Olympics, the breaking Olympics, just because it's like you know, like what Ryan was saying. You know, everyone has their own idea of like how they would score things or judge things, because it's like everyone has a different perspective on things. And obviously, there's power heads, there's style heads, and there's everything else in between. So I'm looking forward to it. Like when they announced it, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty sick." I'm surprised they didn't have it beforehand, but you know, obviously, there's a lot of hurdles to go through. So I'm excited when that comes out. I'm just kind of on the fence of like who is judging and how it's going to be scored, because obviously there's like leniency of like you know this over this just because of that person or whatever, and there's also a sense of like is this fair judging or is this a fair scoring regimen, and then what's the behind the scenes aspect of like is it just going to be the judges scoring for themselves, or are they like you know playing to someone you know controlling like you know we want you to score this way, you know? Yeah. And then it just defeats the whole purpose of like, yeah, rigging is finally the Olympics. We've been striving to get this on mainstream like this for like the longest time. Not saying they haven't, but like this is a huger platform for a worldwide audience. That's like, you know, it's huge. But then when you think about it, it's just like, now it's just like, how are they going to like determine what is considered like, you get to move on. Yeah. And then it's just like, I don't know. It's a gray area for me specifically. I'm not huge on break. I break a little bit, but I don't have a lot of knowledge. But it's just from a dancer's perspective of like, you know, scoring, judging, and like how that's going to be orchestrated. You just have to think about who's going to be on that panel. Is that panel voting for themselves, or is it like, is a Paris Olympic company or organization is like, hey, we want you to score it this way, you know? And then it goes back to like ABDC days of like scoring. When you can kind of see it in the videos for ABDC, some of those weren't really like judged too well, and I don't know. Some of the judges are
questionable.
Yeah. Do you feel like now, because there's different types of breaking, there's like obviously we have the genres of like industry focused breakdancing, then we have the street focused breakdancing. Are we gonna have like a specific branch of just Olympics?
Oh, like this straight up Olympian
straight up
beat
teams
breakers?
that only do Olympics.
I mean,
and are training for Olympics, like the figure skaters who are training just for Olympics.
I feel like there's some people that do that already, but because people just train. Because I've never walked in those shoes, but I feel like there's people who just train all year to get ready for Red Bull BC1.
Yeah.
Or Battle of the Year. Yeah, which is essentially the same thing. Red Bull BC1 is like is one of the more world renowned like 1v1 type of competitions for breaking, because you got to do qualifier rounds, same kind of thing, got to qualify to represent the country. The same thing with Battle of the Year. At least the last time I was like looking into Battle of the Year, like it was same thing. It's a crew qualifiers, very similar to HHI. And you got to qualify to represent your country, and then you go in there, and then like top 4 battled it out.
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if they're just using these next 4 years, so to speak, like to be ready for the next round and just to get these W's and to get to practice your sets for battle, to practice, I don't know, your new stuff. Because I know I'm aware that some B-boys aim to do both. Like some of them work industry and then still battle.
Yeah.
Because shit, I mean, battles, it's a crapshoot when it comes to earning. Because even though say if you battle, you don't get paid to battle. You only get paid when you win. Yeah. And then might as well do all that flashy shit. That's easy for you and get paid for it, like, and get an agent and all that. So
Yeah.
You mentioned something. Are there now going to be a bunch of like industry b-boys or Olympic b-boys, crew b-boys, stuff like that? So this was actually talked about on another Breakers podcast. This is Domkey, Lines of Zion.
Man. Does he still do podcasts?
He does from time to time.
Shoot.
Also, he's a huge
Lines of Zion.
he's a
That's
huge
crazy.
anime nerd as well. Super dope. Really, really awesome b-boy. If you ever want to check him out, again, Domkey, Lions of Zion. He's competed on the Red Bull BC1 stage. He's made it to finals, maybe not finals in freestyle sessions, but just phenomenal dancer. He brought up a really good point. He was talking about what it is to like be an industry b-boy versus like a traditional b-boy. And when you have a dancer booking a commercial, or you have a commercial or a brand and they're like, hey, you know what, we need to bring in dancers. We just want someone who can come in here and just tear up the floor, come in, do some head spins, do some flares, hit a sick combo, get that 5 seconds, and get out. Mm-hmm. Now, what are they going to do? They don't really care about preserving the culture or preserving anything about the art form. Mm-hmm. They just need something eye-catching. So who are you going to hire? Are you going to hire the OG b-boy who's going to charge a whole bunch of money for his expertise and his time and to really teach, let me break it down for you. Well, this is rocking. Well, this is footwork. Well, this is power. Or are you going to hire this new cat who just learned some sick power combo and maybe doesn't really understand the culture behind it?
Yeah.
Money talks. They're going to hire this youngin.
Right.
So that's why you now got a lot of OGs that don't really have maybe either the mental health or even the resources to take care of themselves. As someone who's really grown up with b-boying and really loves the culture, there's a lot of people that I follow that don't have the same sort of deals or don't have the same kind of sponsorship that really put on for this dance and art form. The dancer that I mentioned, Flea Rock, he does street performances. And I see him session in his garage. Now, I'm not saying that he's not getting some wonderful like deals from Red Bull and maybe some sort of sponsorship here and there, but I don't think someone of this caliber should be risking his entire career performing on Santa Monica. Like, just straight up. I don't see LeBron James doing that. Mm-hmm. I don't see Kobe Bryant playing pickup games at a local gym or sorry, rest in peace. I don't see any of those icons coming down to just this level, So when I run into some of these really, really high level, high talented dancers, and I think like, wow, you're going to be on the Olympic stage potentially. Why are you teaching a free workshop here and there's only like 7 people? And so that's kind of that's the double-edged sword of the Olympics. So number one, it's really putting us on a platform so people can see us and people can understand how difficult it is. But at the same time, are we going to lose out on some of the culture because it is becoming more industry?
I also was going to say, like, with her, on her point of, like, is it going to be a whole track? I could see in the future, like, once people understand how the Olympics are judged for breakdancing, then they're going to try to do everything that is going to get them the highest scoring points. Like, it's going to become I could see it becoming its own like trajectory because people, you can see it in the regular dance world. Like, I choreograph for competition teams for dance studios for like teens, and they score based on cleanliness primarily. So if you watch like a routine that like the winning routines at kid dance competitions, they're not even artfully created. They don't have like good stories sometimes. Like the choreography's super basic, but they've got 50 kids on stage moving perfectly in unison, super clean, and so they win. And that's all that is like a huge thing. And so when I'm teaching choreography, I'm like, well, I'm not going to risk my artistry. I'm not going to get rid of my artistry. So I could see, just based off of what you said, like a trajectory in which breakdancing in the Olympics, if people understand how the judging is, like once they learn what the judges are looking for and how the scores are being given out, that it will project into like its own category of breaking, because people are going to try to maximize their score as much as possible. They're going to try to like game the system, and you can already see that in competition dance for like studio dance and like teens, that when they go to competition, the judges mostly care about, especially with group routines, they care about cleanliness. They care that they see like 50 kids on stage and they're all doing clean lines. They don't really care if there's artistry or there's storytelling or the emotion behind the piece. Like that does play a role a little bit, but it's mostly about how clean is the dance, how clean is their technique, and what tricks do they have in the routine. Yeah. So it's really changed the way that choreographers in that world choreograph. Now I choreograph for competition routines, and I like refuse to buy into the I refuse to buy in. I'm like, no, the dances are going to be clean, but they're also, I'm not going to sacrifice artistry for cleanliness. There are certain movements that will never be exactly clean on every body, because every body is different. And when you're looking for cleanliness, then it's like only girls this height can stand here, and only girls this height can stand here. And then that's not really fair, because you're not giving everybody a chance to dance with other groups of people or to intermingle. Like there's so much that is sacrificed for the sake of cleanliness.
Yeah.
So I could see that in breaking, that a lot of the culture or a lot of the like nuances could be sacrificed in order to get a high score in the Olympics. I don't know if that's going to happen. Depends on how the scoring is done.
It can be like pretty formulaic, because I came from like the competition scene as well. Like all our routines had to have a minimum of doubles and toe touches, and then like we always had to plan those out around. So I can see like depending on the judges, because I know like from my experience, some of the judges will say I'm looking for character, I'm looking for footwork, I'm looking for like originality. Even then, originality is such an abstract concept. So, but like
random insert of Alice Cone turns.
Originality.
Always the random insert
The
of
turn
Alice
sequence.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
here's the turn sequence,
And people in the back can't do it. Yeah. So they just
like a
pose.
super emotional, beautiful piece, and then all of a sudden it's like Alice Cone. That's how you do with anything.
Yeah.
My favorite is when you see competitions where they're doing like one specific song, and all of a sudden, now we're doing locking. It's like, this is jarring.
This was kind of like the typical thing as well. Like in the earlier like collegiate competitive days, like when I was in high school, this is what I would see. Like every crew had to do all the different styles. Like there was always like the typical commercial hip hop choreography intro, then there was a breaking section, and then there was a locking section, then there was a popping section. Maybe sometimes an R&B section where the guys dance all seductively for like 24 8 counts.
That wasn't too bad.
Sometimes there's a femme section, sometimes there's a couple section, and then maybe like in the later 2000s, people started implementing punking into it, and then that became more popular. Yeah, it felt very formulaic. Like, all right, here comes the locking section, because now you hear funk music. All right, now you hear some break beats. Here's the breaking section.
Yeah.
The same thing now. I think instead of having sections, it's also quite common to see like what Spiller said, them just randomly being put in. Like let's say it's a hip hop piece, and then suddenly you got someone in the corner doing 5 Alice Cones into a double. And you're like, this is a hip hop piece.
Right.
What are we doing technique here? Or vice versa, technique piece.
In cheer too, holy
too.
shit. In cheer too, there's like clear sections, like here's a clear tumbling section where everyone's just tumbling. And then there's a clear section of like showing off the lifts. Like, why can't we just mix this? Like there's a whole dance section. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Can we just mix this and like, have someone like dance here, lift here, tumble there? Like that's a better looking picture than just here's a tumbling section. Everyone's just tumbling and everyone's confused.
It's for the points.
I
hate that.
I'm interpreting the tumbling section where everyone's just like, whoa! They're falling, just falling over.
Oh, look at them, they're tumbling. Whoa!
This one was recording.
This one, parkour. They pour marbles on the floor. Whoa!
Also, like
showgirls.
Interpretive dancing.
acrobatics is now like like contemporary is acrobatics.
Yeah.
Contemporary dance is like acro but different. And break dancing. Actually, contemporary dance is like break dancing, acrobatics, and a little bit of emotion. Boom, contemporary dance.
I remember in like the 2010s, like contemporary b-boying was a thing.
Yeah.
You gotta know everything for the emotion.
I forgot about that.
Headspins in the back.
Yeah. And then you film it in black and white.
I mean, I'm a contemporary girl. I love the influence of breaking and acrobatics. I love the fusion of all of that. I'm not against it, but it just makes it like, how do you judge? Because like, how do you judge a contemporary dance when it's like this contemporary dance was like all floor work, acrobatics, and like some breaking elements, and then this contemporary dance they were like standing on their feet doing kind of like lyrical ballet. Like what? How do? What are those? What is that?
What are those?
That sounds very similar to what we deal with in terms of like, or how do you judge a footwork b-boy versus an abstract b-boy, which I think I almost feel like it's not as common to see abstract b-boys, which is
Is that what is abstract?
It's abstract.
It's abstract.
So abstract b-boying, the best I can, because there's okay, I'm gonna give two terms of like types of b-boys. There's abstract b-boys. There's also circus b-boys. Sometimes people confuse it, but abstract b-boy is the closest I can put it as like, say you're doing freestyle hip hop, but on the floor. That's abstract. Look, a great example. One of my favorite abstract b-boys is Paranoid Android, because it's more conceptual, like ba 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 boom boom boom, not traditional footwork. But often a lot of people confuse abstract b-boys with circus b-boys, which is flexibility, like the
Was that what you wanted me to get
lotus over the head.
Sala too, right?
Is that what you wanted me to get into?
Sala's just all
He's all
around.
around.
He's all around.
Who?
Sala.
Yeah, no, he's all around.
He's technically, yeah.
Yeah, but like, like flexibility, like a lot more flexibility, flashes stuff. Like, you know, the hollowbacks, like they would go to the extreme.
Yeah.
Like put their kick their head, their leg over the head, and then do a front flip onto that foot, and then land into a freeze.
Look up B-Boy Chorito.
Yeah.
B-Boy Chorito.
Like, or even look up circus runaways. Yeah, those are good examples of circus style b-boying, because it's a lot more flexibility with athleticism. Yeah, and then it was a huge debate in the mid 2000s that like, is this considered breakdancing? Is it considered b-boying? Because they're not using the traditional format of footwork, of maybe some power, but like a very unique ways of doing of top rocks. It's very, very different approach.
I'm going to ask you guys, just here at the table, I'm going to give you guys 3 types of judging when it comes to a breaking battle. You got a dancer and you got a dancer. They go head to head. Do you guys think, I'm going to go through all 3 of them. 1, we judge like this. They do 2 rounds, and we judge the whole thing collectively. So you do a round, you do your second round, you do your second round. 3, 2, 1, you vote. Okay, there's that. Number 2, both B-boys or B-girls do 2 rounds. You vote each round. Do a round. This person took that. This person didn't. These 3 judges say this person. These 2 judges say that person. This person gets the point. Then it would go, if they tie, they do a 3rd round to do a tiebreaker. And then the last option, you got your 5 panels of judges. Each judge looks at a specific category. You're looking at footwork. I'm looking at originality.
Like R16.
You're looking at power. R16.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's interesting about that is that can throw off the way you battle.
Yeah.
Because let's say all right, I'm doing 2 rounds and then we're judging. All right, maybe I strategize my first round's not my strongest. My second round, I kill it.
Right.
But if I know halfway through this battle, hey man, you're losing, all of a sudden my entire game plan changes.
Right.
So and the only reason I'm saying this is there's already a conversation about how do we judge this thing? How do we judge here?
Exactly.
So even before the Olympics, they've already kind of been discussing what works best, what doesn't work. Because the R16, I've heard mixed reviews.
Right.
Some people hate that shit, and other people have heard like, oh yeah, I'm cool with that. This I don't know what
Cozen system.
The Cozen system is the one where they vote round by round.
Yep.
Yeah. So Cozen system, I've heard some people really like it, some people don't.
Right.
So already, like, just in your guys' opinion, what do you feel comfortable with? What would you guys like if you were in this position? How would you guys battle depending on the scenario?
I mean, you just stated it depends on the scenario, right? For me, R16 was ideal in a crew setting. It would never work in a 1v1 setting because specifically it has a battle category where you actually have to strategize. Oh, how are we going to one up these people? How are you going to react to it? But it would not be. You could do it in a 1v1 setting, but it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Right.
I actually think B-Boy Crumbs. I think they just released a video 3 days ago, actually, discussing on the judge. Yeah, I think so. That they were talking about it, and it's similar to that. It's not exactly the same, but I believe it was creativity, musicality, dynamics. Like it would. So it looks like they are going somewhat to that route because that's the only way you can do it. Now, is it gonna affect B-boys going to the like what we were saying earlier about going? Is there gonna be a specific Olympic B-boy? Yes, but I also believe it's a good thing to a degree because kind of like when you give an artist limitations, sometimes the greatest creations can come out, right?
Yeah.
The true creations come out. It's so for me, it's not a block. It's going to be interesting to see.
It's an obstacle.
Yeah, with an obstacle. Now, in terms of who they choose to judge and that stuff, that's a whole different story. I won't be able to say anything regarding that. But in terms of choosing a judging system, that seems the most ideal because you can explain it to a random person on the street.
True.
Because if it was just back in the day where you just, why'd you win? Because I like him.
Dude!
Break Free Jam.
Yeah.
Jeff Rowe had battled El Nino. And in an interview, Jeff Rowe claims that, he won that battle. This is actually another very interesting topic. So the idea of calling out somebody in breaking is basically, if you call out a judge, it's saying, I disagree with your opinion. You don't know how to vote. My belief is if you agreed to be in that competition and you agreed to be there and you agreed to say, I'm going to let you judge me, don't be a sore loser. Now, Jeff Rowe will smoke the shit out of me. But when it comes to like the competition setting, if I agreed to be a part of this contest, this event, then I got to be respectful to the judges. Hey, you think I lost? So be it. I disagree with you, but I'm not going to throw a temper tantrum. And additionally, so what? So I beat that judge. That doesn't change the result. Like, that judge still said this person freaking won, whether you like it or not. It's kind of a pride thing, but I do understand that is very much kind of the culture of breaking. You're talking about the Bronx, where a lot of people didn't really have anything, so the only thing you really could do was, hey, I got to put on for my crew. You had Rocksteady crew having all matching shirts and all this stuff, so it was a way to kind of own yourself and be recognized. So I can totally understand that mentality coming in and being like, I'm here to represent, I'm here to do my stuff. And funny enough, I think there's a lens you can look at breaking as a culture and say, this is a very toxic culture. But there is, I think, a level of understanding we need to have but this is also a dance that goes hand in hand with the idea of battling.
Just hip hop culture in general. It's always been part of the culture.
And so there is this, hey, you got to represent, and there should be a little bit of pressure baked into this. So I never want to get to the point where people are like, oh, hey, some of these, why are you cutting his head off in the dance, or why are you like stabbing him, or why are you like mimicking like shooting him? I'm not saying let's promote gang violence or just crime, shit like that. But there should be an intimidation factor, and there should be, hey, if you want to like go head to head with me and you want to battle me, be prepared, because I'm not going to hold back. It's all respect after this, but I'm here to embarrass you. And be ready for that, and take your beating.
It's the same. It's the same thing like with other sports like basketball. They have 1v1s. It's like straight up it's the high level competition.
Streets.
I think in that case scenario, like Fleet Rock actually did a response, and I actually agree with him for most part. Was like there's a time and place for everything. Because the right way would have the way he explained it, at least from what I understand, and whoever wants to comment me wrong, that's fine, because I probably have it wrong. But from what I understood, he stated that time and place, the right way would have done it was to, after the competition, get in a circle, then call them out.
Cipher it.
Cipher it out, because that's how people did it back in the day. But he did it during a competition, during a job.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that's where everyone had a very
middle.
And then another controversial call out that I like bringing up, and I'm surprised it's not as popular, was Benji versus Lilu.
Yo, that one's. I've been waiting for that battle.
Benji versus yeah. So if people aren't aware, Lilu, Red Bull BC1, everyone knows Lilu at this point. But Benji, who basically I'm gonna say consider him, it's not the right wording, but he considers himself more of the OG, and he believes that Lilu took a lot of his moves. And it's interesting because when you look at his style, it is very similar. It's not the same. You can tell Lilu ended up changing it up throughout the years, but there was definitely an era where a lot of the moves looked exactly the same, kind of like the threading style almost, with flexibility. And he walked out. There was one time he actually called him out.
Yeah.
And this is where there's a line, right? On one off, I understand that Lilu was probably tired, but he used his Red Bull BC1 belts as an excuse. I'm gonna say as an excuse. Again, not nearly as good as these people, but at least from what I saw, it was an excuse of him saying, "You're not worth my time battling." For me, that's wrong way to handle getting called out. Because at the end of the day, when you get called out, you answer the call. You don't just hide behind a belt saying, "Hey, I'm Red," because he literally said, "I'm 2-time Red Bull BC1 winner." Blah 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 blah, and he walked off.
It is kind of part of the culture. Like if you're a b-boy and you get called out, you have to respond.
And for me, it's like I'm still waiting for that battle to happen, because it's like it's one of those things where it's like it's a missed call, and now we're just waiting to see something to happen.
But I don't think it's toxic for there to be like look at Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like you're literally trying to pin someone down and like get them to submit. Like that is the goal. But it's a very done in a respectful way. You like respect each other before and after, and you like there's a lot of
I personally think it's a very like way b-boys do it. Yeah, I can get obnoxious at times, but
you get obnoxious, definitely.
But I think the beauty is that again, ideally, people shake hands at the end of the day, and they respect each other's experiences and journey and art. Yeah. And that's why, I think that's the whole reason why I love and felt breaking.
Do you guys think, in terms of, because we're talking about breaking, but in terms of hip hopers, do you think we'd ever see that in the stage like the Olympics? Because there's already a scoring system.
Yeah.
Hip Hop International, because Hip Hop International has its own scoring system as well.
Yeah.
Because like there's people who just judge the choreography, people who judge the styles.
Right.
If you can get the styles right, would that ever touch the Olympic stage? Because if they can do it on World of Dance or ABDC,
has ballet touched the Olympic stage?
No.
I would say ballet's an even more codified art form.
Yeah.
Like it's been around for so much longer. It has like very, very specific moves, which is why it's so damn boring to watch, in my opinion. Mad respect for what they can do. Mad respect for what they can do, but like I can't sit through a full length ballet because it's the same movement. It's like there's only so much artistry that you can put into ballet before they're like, that's not ballet anymore.
Because it's so traditional.
Because it's so traditional. So if that's not in the Olympics, it's like, oh.
But is ballet? I'm very ignorant. Does ballet have competitions like how there are?
There's like ABT and like there's like different.
The reason I said that was because since ballet is an established dance, hip hop is an up and coming dance. I think breaking fits because it has the acrobatics in it. That to me is the one reason why I think a lot of people look at b-boying and breaking as, it's a sport and a dance. Because there is a level of technique where it's like, if you want to hit an air flare, it's not something you can just come and just, okay, all right, 5, 6, 7, 8, da 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 da. Like there is a level of dedication. Not that dance doesn't have that, but it's something that the everyday person will be able to see. And in that case, I think it's very comparable to ballet, because anyone watching can see some ballet moves and go, wow, the level of difficulty there is just so high.
Like males doing like triple tours and turning 3 times in the air.
Yeah.
I guess that's why rhythmic gymnastics did well in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because it's
Exactly.
a mixture of acrobatics / gymnastics, but the dance part of it as well. It's very fancy with the hoops, the batons, the ribbon, and it has the tricks that is needed to be eye-catching, but it also has the technique and flexibility and strength and the way a dancer would do it.
Like the whole subtlety is now what the layman would really appreciate. Like it's like again going to the flash, but if someone does a beat kill, like that's something our community would be like, oh, he killed that fucking beat, versus the layman like, what did he do?
Wait, he just turned his head, or he just like, he
Yeah.
just stuck his leg in it.
Or like just
Yeah.
the perfect timing, or like of what
He's
they're
made a
doing.
facial.
Yeah,
Just
just
move your
care.
fingers around.
So I don't think it's impossible for like hip hop to get to that, like hip hop dance to get to that platform, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think what hip hop has in terms of like all the competitions that we currently have, I think is great.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's a better place for it to flourish anyways.
Mm.
I don't think hip hop, if it were to be like an Olympic category, I don't think we'd get the same sort of performances that we know and love today that we get from Vibe and from Body Rock and World of Dance and Carnival and all that stuff anyways.
Right.
But who the hell am I? So
It's kind of hard because Hip Hop International, they do like majority from what I understand. Foundation is key for most of that. So but the thing is, it's like for them, I believe it's like you have to do so many styles, right? And that kind of puts a check on the judges' board, right?
Yeah.
So I think the issue with that is that, okay, breakdance is one style. Now, if you do that, how do you explain? Oh, we did locking, we did house, we did. So it becomes a lot more of an issue of like how does the public, because it's mostly the public's eye that really determines if this sport or dance in this case is going to be able to generate money and value, because at the end of the day, it is up to the people to decide that.
Right.
So that's the hard part. I mean, I would love to see it. Like, I believe a lot of all style, open style dancers are some of the best dancers in the world, and they don't get credited enough. Not nearly enough. Cruise is definitely a harder topic in my opinion when it comes to that. But when it comes to individual, I could definitely see it.
Didn't they do skateboarding?
Skateboarding is in the Olympics, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it
in
is.
the-
A lot of people made that comparison to breaking, actually.
Yeah, that's how I was like, well, I mean, I could be skateboarding is there, and then I don't see why not breakdancing.
The one thing that interests me is that esports is huge.
Oh, it's ginormous.
Yeah, I feel like that industry is way newer and way bigger in a short amount of time. And to me, I'm wondering what's it going to take for dancing to reach that level of like, here's team sponsorships, here's actual teams you get recruited and drafted for to represent. I guess that's a question to you guys. What do you think it'll take? Because esports figured it out pretty fast.
I don't know how they did that.
This is just my ignorant kind of like take, because I
Maybe
there's not-
accessibility, anyone can play games.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, you hear that, gamers? Yeah.
Gamers.
You want to meet me in the studio?
No, but it's true though. It's accessibility. In this case, it's accessibility, and then also, like, let's be honest, it has an objective: point A to point B. It's point A to point B, or kill the other team. It's very simple objective, so it's easy for people to grasp it. Dota, like I heard, like I wanna bring this an example. What was it? Like I think maybe 12 years ago. Jesus Christ. Small game. Yeah, so 12 years ago, I think they had their first competition. I could be wrong with the time. I think the prize money was 2.7.
Yes.
Now it's in the 23 millions. It's huge. But it's because accessibility and there's an objective.
Yeah.
With dance as a whole, it's hard to determine what the objective is because at the end of the day, subjective. It's depending on what your experiences are. What do you see? So that's why it's a hard thing to really. That's why it's taking so long for, at least in my opinion, why it's taking so long for the public to finally understand and see. Oh, this shit is really hard, and it's because most of them haven't even tried it either.
I imagine there's also a bigger community. I mean, you said accessibility, so it's the numbers. I can't put a number on it now because I don't know off the top of my head. But I imagine the number of gamers in the world completely just blows away the number of breakers.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to sit down and play a video game.
Classic
Sit
Clans.
up and dance.
Yeah.
It is easier, and like, I know I was teasing the camera earlier, but hey, if that's what you enjoy doing and that's what you find entertaining, then absolutely you're going to gravitate more towards it. And if this hobby has a bigger audience, there's more money to be made in it, just flat out. And so, of course, all these people are playing Valorant, they're all playing League, they're all playing Fortnite. Hell yeah, I'm going to turn esports into something marketable, and it won't be hard for me to do it either. because it is just objectively easier to sit down than to get up and put hours and hours into like sweating, going out to studios to learn how to, I want to learn from this OG, now I want to learn this dance style, now I got to compete on a crew, now I got to fly out to here. Whereas a video game, hey, it's online, I've got an online community, I can stay here and, you don't have to maybe go to a dance studio and learn from a teacher like this. And
spend a bunch of money.
Spend a bunch of money. And just straight up, video games are fun. Like, I understand if someone right now was like, yo, you want to be sponsored on a team to play Call of Duty forever or play Fortnite forever, I can see why that would be enticing to a young person.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that also dance can't be marketable either. I mean, you've seen, like, So You Think You Can Dance? They made a whole show. Americans Got Talent has dance crews going. That's little by little. I feel like there's been platforms where dance has been super marketable to the general audience. That's why when you think, I ask a random person, be like, so they're like, yeah, I dance. Oh, so you do the jabberwockies thing?
You do the
Jabberwockies.
That's a little cringy. It's still great to like, it's being recognized.
It's being recognized.
That there's still music videos.
Yes,
people
there's
think
music
like,
videos.
Janet Jackson, Britney Spears, like Usher, and then like there's that entire there's a whole market that people are fed, and it's kind of like, they don't even realize like, I could be like that person off of like
Even K-pop.
Yeah, even
because
K-pop.
now it became so international that having a dance routine in a K-pop has made everyone want to start dancing now. And TikTok even made it bigger.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like,
but that's where
there is the marketable end, but where's
that's a whole different
profitable
conversation.
end for the individual? Because we can go in America's Got Talent, America's Best Talent, or even America's Great Dance Crew.
Pretty okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know the stories exactly of like their paid stipends weekly, but I'm pretty sure they're competing for money at the end, and so they're essentially working weeks on end for what? Same thing for America's Got Talent or So You Think You Can Dance. You're working weeks on end with zero pay, but you get marketed, and then it's likely after the fact you get booked because I know you'll get to be on tours, but I don't know. There's a very high upfront cost of zero for that whole thing versus like versus not to knock on anyone's journey who's done that. Assuming you're good, you get picked to be on certain teams and you have a contract, and then you compete for however long the contract is. But for dance, like you get booked for a music video. That's one gig probably done in a weekend. Or if you do, if you're on tour, like once the tour is done, you got to get back onto the next one. There's the lifespan of the career is always like
short,
very short.
Yeah.
So like
one day sometimes.
One day, yeah. Sometimes it's one day.
Audition for a whole day to get a gig that is like taught and filmed in one day, and then you get that one paycheck, and then you have to find something else. It's like,
and that's why a lot of dancers have part time.
Yeah, that's why like the question is I'd say like going from Olympics and then going to like the comparison with esports is like when the longevity game with dancing is very scarce right now. The question is how do we make it less so? Yeah.
Well, I guess that's where the Olympics come.
I kind of agree and disagree because I think another thing that's changing about just human beings in general is that we used to think that when you get to a certain age, you age out. But now, like, people are taking care of themselves a lot better. They feed themselves better. Like, I see videos of b-boys that like 47 are in their 60s. And like, and it's like the age used to be like, that was your time out. And now that we take care of ourselves better, like, who says that you can't have a career that's as long as however you live? Like, you have artists who are old, like J-Lo, Madonna, these people who have been just doing this stuff for ages. And like, yes, they have, like, they started up, they like became famous, they got the money, and now like, but that's also like, okay, so if they're doing it at this age, then why can't I?
But the dancers that they're hiring in Madonna's music videos and in J-Lo's music videos, those dancers are not their age.
Yeah,
like,
they're very young.
not hiring,
I will say that they are young.
they're not hiring dancers who look, as long as you look young, it depends on the industry we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with breaking, I'm sure that it's a little more open. Like you can do this thing, you can do the thing. That's all good. But like for the commercial dance industry, especially, like, and especially for women in the commercial dance industry, it's like you have to look like you're 20. And if you don't look like you're 20, like if you look like you're 28, like, sorry, honey. Like that's why there's so much Botox, and so that's a whole nother topic. But like there's so much push for people to get like plastic surgery in the industry because you have to look in your early 20s, and or else you're not going to get hired.
I think it's also important to differentiate from having a career in dance versus competing in dance too. Because I think I'm going to be honest; those are two completely different avenues, and it's a hard pill to swallow. Because I wish I could do both, but the reality is you have to pick and choose
one of them
because they're just two completely different avenues. Do you wish to dedicate your whole life to this specific style of dance, or just to dance in general, to compete and then win based on competition and maybe a gig here and there, or do a career in dance where you won't be able to be the creative that you want to be, but you're able to, put food on the table at least, and have a more stable, well, it's still going to be gig based, but it's more stable versus being competition because there's so many factors that can ruin the day. You get wounded or injured during break competition, that's your money, bye-bye. Versus you can kind of fake it to make it in a industry gig, depending on what the gig is, of course.
Yeah, like I'd say the closest to something stable is like getting to work at a Vegas residency. You for sure get money, but it's doing the same thing for 180 shows, 200 shows for every single day. So that's sort of the sacrifice. Is you're not as creative, but you sure is getting paid for what to do. When I was touring, the company I was with, we did the same routine when we were touring for 4 years.
Do it right now.
So, there was a point where I was just like, man, this is like, we're doing it. Like, I got like complacent. Like, we're just gonna do the same thing anyways. So, there is a trade off on your creativity versus the check.
Right.
So
The money's in teaching, honestly. That's where it is. Like, if and that's the longevity, I think, is like you can teach forever, and that's where the real like money is in teaching for my style and genre that I think for any of them. Once you've had those like big name things on your resume, then you can be a master teacher.
Oh god!
And
Don't get me started with
classes.
With 18-year-olds doing master classes. The whole thing of just like, because having a resume, and then I agree, teaching is probably like the best way to be creative and get paid for it. Because shoot, like a lot of the people we see on Instagram are amazing choreographers, or battlers that can also teach. Because people are hungry for that knowledge, and the access to you is the most scarce resource, so you can capitalize on that.
We should have a watch party.
Yes, absolutely.
That'd be fun.
TT versus the Olympics.
Wait, are we calling them too?
I don't know.
I would still love to have a regular person try to do the thing that an Olympian can do. Because the common thing throughout all the sports is
how hard can it be?
How hard can it be? I can do that.
Okay.
Hold my beer.
Okay. So, when it comes to like dance, like competition type things, like battles or like stuff like So You Think You Can Dance or whatever, as someone that wasn't a dancer for like 15 years, and like and I have a mother that thinks she can do anything. So like every time she watches So You Think You Can Dance, and she's like literally sitting there, she's like, that's not clean enough. And I'm like, you try. And that's the thing, because like public perception of dance will always be dance for me, monkey. And so like that's why it took so long for breaking to be in the Olympics, but also when you mentioned like HHI type competition style, like going into the Olympics makes sense to us, but I don't think it'll make sense to the public, because again, they just They look at it as entertainment. They
Yeah.
don't look at it as a sport or anything that can be
Well, dance is a
really
sport,
judged.
but
It is a sport.
Ah.
They don't look at it that way. They see dance as
sport
entertainment, and that's it.
I think. Go ahead.
A sport by definition is anything that has to do with physical activity that is competed
Yeah.
and can be entertaining.
I agree. I agree. The general public does not agree with you.
Or
The general public
Very
who
much
pays
so.
money will not agree with
or
you.
maybe specifically the West.
West.
The thing is, you gotta also keep in mind that dancers are supposed to make things look easy. That's their job.
Yeah.
Like they're meant to make it look like anybody can do this.
Yeah.
And then the reality is, you hit
And then
some
someone
mirror,
else
and
tries
mirror
it.
cracks on you, and then
Seen ballet?
I can spin on my toes.
I have toes. I can use them.
Every
He's
minute
jumping.
or
I
so.
can jump like that.
Oh God! Spin on my head? Sure, I can do
I have a
that.
head. I can do it.
So no head. Oh.
All right. So if that's it, thank you guys for watching. Share or comments down below. Do all the things. We'll see you guys next time.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Comment and survive.
Wee.